Welcome to our deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles.
Yeah, it's a fascinating book
It really is. We're going to explore his unique approach to success.
in life and business,
Exactly, both.
building his firm Bridgewater.
Bridgewater Associates, right?
Yeah.
One of the things that really struck me was his idea of an idea meritocracy.
It's a powerful concept for sure.
So that's where the best ideas rise to the top, no matter who they came from.
Precisely. It's about creating a system where the best thinking wins.
And he actually implemented this at Bridgewater.
Yeah, he really put it into practice.
But before we get too deep into that, I want to talk about something else that stood out to me. His perspective on mistakes.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
He doesn't see mistakes as setbacks, but as crucial parts of learning and growth.
It's like evolution in a way, you know? Nature is constantly adapting and improving through trial and error.
He actually compares it to evolution.
He does. He believes those who cling to always being right miss out on valuable lessons.
That makes a lot of sense. And he even shares that story about his costly bet, the one he thought he couldn't lose.
Oh, right. The one that forced him to completely rethink his approach to decision making.
Yeah, it was a major turning point for him.
Instead of dwelling on the error, he used it as an opportunity to improve his system.
So he turned that mistake into a learning experience.
He did. He implemented an error log.
It's an error log.
Yeah, where everyone at Bridgewater documented their mistakes.
And they analyzed what went wrong.
Right. Created a culture of transparency and accountability around mistakes.
That seems like such a valuable tool, but how do we learn to embrace making mistakes in the first place? It's not exactly a natural instinct for most people.
It's definitely a shift in mindset.
So how do we do it?
Dalio talks about something he calls the mistake learner's high.
The mistake learner's high.
It's like the idea that over time, you can rewire your brain to see learning from mistakes as something positive.
To actually enjoy the process.
Exactly. It becomes a sense of growth and accomplishment.
It's like that runner's high feeling.
Exactly. You start to crave that feeling of learning and improvement.
That's a great way to put it. So we've talked about embracing mistakes.
And that ties into another big idea, radical open-mindedness.
Okay, let's talk about that. What exactly is radical open-mindedness?
Well, it means actively seeking out different perspectives,
Even those you might disagree with.
especially those you might disagree with. Dalio believes our own understanding is often incomplete.
So we should constantly be challenging our own assumptions.
Exactly.
But how do you avoid just constantly second-guessing yourself then?
It's not about second-guessing. It's about refining your judgment.
Okay, so how do we do that?
One strategy Dalio suggests is actively seeking out believable people who disagree with you.
There's that concept of believable people again. We talked about that a little bit earlier, but can you remind us what that means exactly?
So believable people are those who have a proven track record of success.
Okay, so they've actually achieved results in the area you're talking about.
Right. And they can also logically explain their reasoning.
So they can back up their opinions with solid evidence.
Precisely. They're not just sharing opinions, they're sharing insights based on experience and clear thinking.
I like that. So it's about seeking out experts, but also making sure they can articulate their thinking clearly.
Exactly. And this ties into another fascinating analogy Dalio uses. People being like Lego sets.
Okay, now I'm intrigued. How are people like Lego sets?
Well, imagine each Lego piece represents a different attribute.
Like strengths, weaknesses, values.
Exactly. And we all have a unique combination of these Lego pieces that make us who we are.
So some people might have more creative Legos, while others might have more analytical Legos.
That's a great way to put it. And understanding these differences is key to success.
Especially when it comes to teamwork and collaboration, right?
Absolutely, because if you know someone is naturally more introverted, for example, you can adjust your communication style accordingly.
That makes a lot of sense. So how do we go about figuring out our own Lego sets and those of the people around us?
Dalio is a big proponent of using psychometric assessments.
Psychometric assessment.
Essentially, tests that help measure those attributes objectively.
So instead of just relying on our gut feelings, we use data to get a clearer picture of people's strengths and weaknesses.
Exactly. And then we can use that information to build more effective teams.
Okay, so we've covered embracing mistakes, being open-minded, and understanding people's unique strengths.
All essential ingredients for success.
Now, what about actually achieving our goals? How does Dalio approach that?
Well, he outlines a 5-step process for getting what you want out of life.
I'm all ears. What are the 5 steps?
The first step is setting clear goals.
Okay, so not just vague desires, but well-defined objectives.
Exactly. And Dalio emphasizes the importance of setting ambitious goals.
So we should be aiming high.
Yes, because high expectations often lead to greater achievements.
I like that. So once we set our goals, what's next?
The second step is identifying problems.
Not just acknowledging they exist, but actively seeking them out.
Precisely, Dalio believes problems are opportunities for improvement.
So it's about facing those problems head on.
Absolutely. And being brutally honest about identifying them.
Okay, that sounds like a challenge, but I can see the value in it. What's step 3?
Step 3 is accurately diagnosing those problems.
But understanding the root causes, not just the surface symptoms.
Exactly. Dalio emphasizes asking questions like, is the outcome good or bad? Who or what is responsible? And if the person is responsible, are they incapable or is the design bad?
Those are tough questions, but essential ones to ask.
They force you to think critically about the problem.
Okay, so we've identified our goals, found the problems, and figured out their root causes. What's next?
Step 4 is designing plans to overcome those problems.
So we're creating a roadmap for success.
Exactly. Think like a machine designer and visualize the steps needed to achieve your desired outcome.
I like that analogy. So we have our plan, but what if we hit a roadblock?
Well, that's where step 5 comes in, execution.
It's all about putting those designs into action and getting things done.
Precisely, Dalio stresses the importance of having the self-discipline to see things through.
Because even the best plan is useless if we don't execute it.
Exactly. And it's important to remember that this 5-step process is iterative.
Meaning we're constantly going back and refining our goals, identifying new problems, and adjusting our plans along the way.
Exactly. It's a continuous loop of learning and improvement.
And Dalio acknowledges that nobody can excel at every step.
Right. He encourages us to seek help from others to compensate for our weaknesses.
So it's about building a team of people with complementary skills.
Exactly. Leveraging each other's strengths to achieve a common goal.
This 5-step process is incredibly practical, but it also demands a lot of self-awareness and honesty.
It does, but it's at the heart of Dalio's philosophy for success.
It's about understanding ourselves, the people around us, and the world as it really is, and then using that understanding to make better decisions.
And ultimately, achieve our goals.
This is all starting to make sense now, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Dalio's principles.
We have. There's so much more to explore.
We haven't even touched on his concept of believability-weighted decision making, or those shapers.
And we only briefly mentioned believability-weighted decision making.
So tell me, what are these shapers all about? What role do they play in Dalio's philosophy?
Shapers are those visionary leaders who can turn dreams into reality.
So they're like the architects of the future.
Precisely. They have that unique ability to not only come up with bold ideas, but also to inspire and motivate others to make them happen.
That sounds fascinating. I'm really curious to learn more about them.
We'll definitely delve into that. And of course, we need to go deeper into that idea meritocracy we touched on earlier. I'm eager to understand how it works in practice.
Okay, I'm hooked. Let's keep exploring Dalio's principles. What else have we got in store?
Well, next we'll explore how Dalio applied these principles in building and managing organizations, especially that idea meritocracy he's so passionate about.
I'm all ears. How does this idea meritocracy actually work?
It's a system designed to make sure the best ideas win, no matter where they come from. It relies heavily on radical truth and transparency.
So creating an environment where people feel comfortable sharing their thoughts, even if they challenge the status quo.
Exactly. And where decisions are based on logic and evidence, not on who has the most authority or political clout.
It sounds like a dream workplace for anyone who values innovation and critical thinking. But how do you actually build that kind of environment? It seems almost utopian.
It starts with a commitment to radical truth and transparency,
So everyone has to be willing to be completely honest.
even about their own mistakes and weaknesses, and open to feedback, even if it's tough to hear.
No sugarcoating or ego-driven defensiveness.
Absolutely not. And it's not just about talking the talk, it's about walking the walk. Dalio gives tons of examples of how this plays out at Bridgewater.
Like what?
For instance, at Bridgewater, they openly discuss even major decisions with all employees right from the get-go.
Even decisions like reorganizing departments.
Yep. That level of transparency is pretty rare.
It is. I can see how that would create a lot of trust and a sense of ownership among the employees.
Absolutely. It makes everyone feel like they're part of something bigger than themselves.
That's powerful stuff. And this transparency isn't just about sharing information, is it? It's about fostering a strong sense of community and purpose within the organization.
You got it. And it helps to break down silos and create a more collaborative environment.
It sounds like a great way to build a more cohesive and aligned team.
Exactly. And beyond transparency, Dalio really emphasizes building meaningful relationships within an idea meritocracy.
So it's not just about systems and processes, it's about human connection.
Exactly. He advocates for a culture of tough love where people are pushed to excel, but also given direct feedback and support.
So it's like having a demanding but supportive coach who wants to see you succeed.
That's a great analogy. It's about balancing high expectations with genuine care.
I like that. So this idea of meritocracy isn't just an abstract concept, right? Dalio put specific tools and systems in place at Bridgewater to make it a reality.
He did. He's all about turning principles into practice.
Can you give us some examples of those tools?
Sure. They have a platform called Coach that links specific situations to relevant principles. It's like having a digital mentor on hand to provide guidance based on Dalio's wisdom.
So if you're facing a tough challenge, you can consult Coach for advice on how to apply Dalio's principles to that specific situation.
Exactly. It's a way to tap into his collective wisdom and experience.
That's amazing. What other systems did they implement?
They use process flow diagrams to map out decision-making processes.
So everyone knows how decisions are made and who's responsible for what.
Exactly. And they have comprehensive policy and procedures manuals that everyone can access.
So there's transparency around how things work.
Yes. And they rely heavily on metrics dashboards to track progress and identify areas for improvement.
So it's a data-driven approach to managing performance and progress.
Precisely. They are constantly measuring and analyzing data to ensure that the organization is moving in the right direction.
This idea, meritocracy, sounds like a fascinating experiment in organizational design. But is it applicable outside of the unique environment of Bridgewater? Can other organizations adopt this model?
Dalio is adamant that these principles are universal and adaptable.
So they're not just for finance companies.
Nope. They can benefit organizations of all sizes and industries.
That's encouraging. So it's about creating a culture of transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement.
Exactly. Those are principles that can benefit any organization.
That makes a lot of sense. Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about another key element in Dalio's organizational philosophy, shapers.
Ah, yes. The driving force behind innovation and progress.
Tell me more about these shapers. Who are they and what role do they play in building successful organizations?
In Dalio's view, shapers are the visionary leaders, the ones who can turn dreams into reality.
So they're the ones who can see the big picture and chart a course for the future.
Precisely. They have a rare combination of traits that allow them to see beyond the present and imagine a different, better future.
So they're not bound by conventional thinking.
Nope. They're the ones who challenge the status quo and push the boundaries of what's possible.
It sounds like they play a crucial role in driving innovation and progress.
Absolutely. They're the ones who come up with the bold ideas and inspire others to follow their lead.
So what makes a shaper so special? What qualities set them apart from other leaders?
Dalio identifies 3 key characteristics of shapers.
Okay, let's hear them.
First, they have visionary thinking.
So they're able to envision a different, better future.
Exactly. They see possibilities that others might miss.
And they're not afraid to challenge conventional wisdom.
Not at all. They're willing to think outside the box and explore uncharted territory.
That's exciting. What's the second characteristic?
The ability to execute their visions.
So it's not enough to just have great ideas. You have to be able to put them into action.
Exactly. Shapers are doers, not just dreamers. They have the practical skills and determination to turn their ideas into tangible results.
So they're able to bridge the gap between vision and reality.
Precisely. They're not afraid to roll up their sleeves and get things done.
And what's the third essential trait?
Unwavering determination.
So they don't give up easily.
Not at all. Shapers are resilient. They're not discouraged by obstacles or setbacks. They have the grit and perseverance to see things through to completion, even when faced with challenges and resistance.
It sounds like a rare combination of traits. Visionary thinking, practical execution, and unwavering determination.
It is. But Dalio believes that these qualities can be cultivated.
So it's not something you're necessarily born with.
Right. He believes that everyone has some shaper qualities within them, even if they're not fully developed.
So it's about nurturing those qualities and providing opportunities for growth.
Exactly. Dalio recommends using personality assessments to identify potential shapers within organizations and then providing them with opportunities to grow and develop their leadership abilities.
It's about identifying those individuals who have the potential to be great leaders and then giving them the support and guidance they need to flourish.
Exactly. It's about creating an environment where shapers can thrive and make their unique contributions.
I like that. Now, can you give us some real-world examples of shapers? Who are some of Dalio's role models in this regard?
He often mentions iconic figures like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk, and Jeff Bezos.
So we're talking about individuals who revolutionized entire industries.
Exactly. They didn't just imagine groundbreaking ideas, they built the organizations and systems needed to bring those ideas to life.
They changed the way we live and work.
Precisely. And Dalio believes we need more shapers like them to tackle the complex challenges facing our world.
That's inspiring. Now, before we get carried away with shaping the world, I want to touch on one final aspect of Dalio's organizational philosophy that we haven't discussed yet. Governance.
Ah, yes. The framework that keeps everything running smoothly.
Even in an idea meritocracy, you need structure.
Right. Absolutely. You need a system to ensure that the organization stays on track and makes responsible decisions.
So it's about finding the right balance between freedom and structure.
Exactly. Allowing for creativity and innovation while also ensuring that the organization operates effectively and ethically.
Dalio talks a lot about the importance of having a clear governance structure, right?
He does. He emphasizes the need for well-defined roles and responsibilities, and a strong board of directors to provide oversight.
To make sure everything is aligned with the organization's core principles.
Exactly. It's about having checks and balances in place, ensuring that no one individual has too much power.
And that there are mechanisms for accountability.
Absolutely. And it's about creating a system that can outlast any individual leader.
So the organization can continue to thrive even as leadership changes.
Precisely. That's how you build a truly sustainable organization.
It sounds like a delicate balancing act, fostering innovation while maintaining order.
It is. But Dalio believes it's an essential balance to strike if you want to build a truly successful organization.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground here today, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface of Dalio's principles.
There's so much more to explore. We haven't even touched on his ideas about personal evolution or work-life balance.
Or the importance of developing a personal philosophy.
It's a deep well of wisdom. But even in this short time, I feel like we've gained valuable insights into Dalio's unique approach to success.
I agree. It's been a thought-provoking journey, and I'm eager to see what other insights Dalio has to offer.
Me too. Let's take a short break, and then we'll come back for the final part of our deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles.
We'll be back soon for part 3, where we'll wrap up our discussion and share some key takeaways that you can apply to your own life and work. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to our deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles.
So before the break, we were talking about idea meritocracy, but we need to go back and circle back around to believable people.
Yeah, it's a key concept, for sure.
It really is. How does that idea, the believable people, how does that play into Dalio's decision-making process?
Well, he calls it believability-weighted decision making.
Believability-weighted decision making.
It's about giving more weight to opinions from those who have a track record
of success
in the area you're dealing with.
So you're not just taking advice from anybody, you're seeking out experts.
You got it.
So how do we identify those believable people? What are we looking for?
Well, Dalio says look for people who have achieved success repeatedly.
Okay, not just a one-hit wonder.
Exactly. And they also have to be able to explain their reasoning.
So walk the walk and talk the talk.
Precisely. It's not enough to just have an opinion. They have to back it up with evidence.
Okay, so real-world results and a sound thought process.
Yeah, that's what you're looking for.
Now, what if you disagree with one of these believable people? Does that automatically mean you're wrong?
Not necessarily. Dalio actually encourages disagreement.
Oh, really?
He sees it as a way to refine your own thinking.
So you're stress testing your ideas.
Exactly. Making sure you're not missing something.
I like that. But how do you actually put this believability weighting into practice? It sounds kind of complicated.
It's simpler than you think.
Okay, give me the rundown.
Start by identifying the people in your life who have that track record.
The ones who consistently make good decisions.
Exactly. And then when you're facing a decision,
Actively seek out their input.
yeah, and don't be afraid to hear different perspectives,
Even if it challenges your own thinking.
especially if it challenges your thinking.
Now, I'm curious how Dalio applies this at Bridgewater.
Hmm.
Do they have some kind of formal system for figuring out who's believable?
They do, actually.
Okay, tell me about it.
One tool they use is called baseball cards.
Baseball cards. For employees
Yeah, it's a document that compiles data on employees' strengths and weaknesses.
and their track records.
Right, so it gives you a quick snapshot of their believability in different areas.
That's pretty cool. What other tools do they use?
They also have an app called the Dot Collector.
What does that do?
It's used for real-time feedback during meetings,
Okay.
so people can vote on ideas.
In real time.
Yeah, and it displays both the average opinion,
Yeah.
the believability-weighted opinion.
So it shows how the consensus shifts when you factor in expertise.
Exactly. It helps to make sure the best ideas from the most believable people rise to the top.
Which ties back into that idea of an idea meritocracy.
Precisely. It's all connected.
This is fascinating. It sounds like a really robust and data-driven way to make decisions.
It is, and it's a key part of how Dalio built Bridgewater into the successful firm it is today.
Okay, so we've talked about believable people and believability-weighted decision making.
Yeah,
Now let's dive back into idea meritocracy.
let's do it.
What exactly is it? I mean, we've touched on it, but can we define it clearly?
So, at its core, an idea meritocracy is a system where the best ideas win, regardless of who they come from.
It's about creating an environment where everyone feels comfortable sharing their thoughts, even if they go against the grain.
Precisely. And decisions are made based on logic and evidence, not on power dynamics or politics.
That sounds like a dream workplace. But how do you create such an environment in the real world? It seems almost too idealistic.
It starts with radical truth and radical transparency.
We've talked about that before, but can you remind us what that means exactly?
It means everyone is willing to be completely honest, even about their own shortcomings,
And open to feedback?
even if it's hard to hear.
So no sugarcoating or defensiveness.
Exactly. And it's not enough to just talk about it, you have to live it.
Dalio gives a lot of examples in the book of how this plays out at Bridgewater.
He does. For instance, they openly discuss even the biggest decisions with all employees.
From the very beginning.
Yeah, even something as major as reorganizing departments.
That's a level of transparency you rarely see. I can see how that would create a lot of trust.
It does. And it also fosters a strong sense of ownership among employees.
They feel like they're genuinely part of the decision-making process.
Exactly. And it helps to break down silos and create a more collaborative and unified culture.
It sounds like a really powerful way to build a strong team.
It is. And beyond transparency, Dalio also emphasizes the importance of building strong relationships.
Even in a workplace that's so focused on logic and reason.
Yes. He advocates for a culture of tough love, where people are pushed to be their best.
But also given support.
Exactly. It's about balancing high expectations with genuine care.
So you're challenging people to grow, but you're also there to help them along the way.
Precisely. Now, this idea of meritocracy isn't just an abstract concept.
Dalio actually put systems and tools in place at Bridgewater to make it a reality.
He did. He's all about taking those principles and putting them into practice.
Can you give us some examples of those tools?
Sure, they have a platform called Coach.
Coach. What is that?
It's a digital tool that links specific situations to relevant principles.
Oh, so it's like having a digital version of Dalio there to give you advice.
Yeah, exactly. It provides guidance based on his experience and wisdom.
I love that. What other tools do they implement?
They use process flow diagrams
Yeah.
to map out decision-making processes.
So everyone understands how decisions are made.
Yeah. And who's responsible for what?
That makes sense.
Yeah.
They also have those policy and procedures manuals we talked about earlier.
Right, and they rely heavily on metrics dashboards,
Do.
track progress, identify areas for improvement.
So it's a very data-driven approach
Yeah, they're constantly measuring and analyzing data.
to make sure they're on the right track.
Exactly. It's all about continuous improvement.
This idea of meritocracy, it's really a fascinating approach to organizational design.
It is.
But can it work outside of Bridgewater? Can other organizations in different industries adopt these principles?
Dalio believes they can.
He thinks they're universally applicable.
Yeah. He says they're relevant to any organization, regardless of size or industry.
So it's not just a recipe for success in finance, it's a framework for building a better way of working, period.
Exactly. It's about creating a culture of transparency, accountability, and continuous improvement.
Those are principles that any organization can benefit from.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about another crucial piece of Dalio's philosophy.
Okay, hit me with it.
Shapers.
Okay, we keep coming back to this idea of shapers. Who are these shapers and what makes them so important in Dalio's view?
Shapers are the visionary leaders, the ones who drive innovation and progress.
They're the ones who can see a better future and make it happen.
Precisely. They have a unique combination of traits that set them apart.
So what are those traits? What makes a shaper a shaper?
First, they have visionary thinking.
Mean
They can see beyond the present and imagine a different, better future.
they're not limited by the status quo.
Exactly. They're able to envision possibilities that others might miss.
Okay, that's one. What's the second trait?
The ability to execute those visions.
So it's not enough to just have the ideas. You have to be able to put them into action.
Exactly. Shapers are doers, not just dreamers.
They can take those big ideas and turn them into something real.
Precisely. And the third key trait is unwavering determination.
They don't give up easily.
Not at all. They're persistent, they're resilient.
They keep pushing forward even when things get tough.
Exactly. They have that grit and determination to overcome obstacles and see their vision through to the end.
So it's a combination of vision, action, and resilience.
You got it.
It sounds like a rare combination of traits.
It is. But Dalio believes everyone has some of these qualities.
Really? So we all have the potential to be shapers in some way.
He thinks so. It's
Yeah.
just a matter of identifying those qualities and developing them.
So how do we do that?
Well, Dalio recommends using personality assessments.
To identify potential shapers.
Exactly. And then providing those individuals with opportunities to grow and develop their leadership abilities.
It's about recognizing the potential in people and giving them the support they need to thrive.
Exactly. Now, does Dalio give any real-world examples of these shapers?
You mean like role models?
Yeah, people who embody these qualities.
He does. He often mentions people like Steve Jobs, Elon Musk,
Well,
Jeff Bezos.
yes. The titans of industry.
They've all revolutionized their respective fields,
They've changed the way we live and work.
and Dalio sees them as examples of what's possible when you combine vision, action, and determination.
Exactly. They're proof that shapers can have a real impact on the world.
It's pretty inspiring.
It is. Now, before we move on, there's one more aspect of Dalio's philosophy that we need to touch on.
Okay, I'm listening.
Governance.
Governance, what do you mean by that?
Even in an idea meritocracy, you need structure, right?
To make sure things run smoothly.
Exactly. You need a system to ensure that the organization makes responsible decisions and stays true to its mission.
So it's about finding that balance between freedom and structure.
Exactly. You want to allow for creativity and innovation.
But you also need some rules of the road.
Exactly. Dalio talks a lot about the importance of having a clear governance structure.
With well-defined rules and responsibilities.
Yes. And a strong board of directors.
To provide oversight and accountability.
Right. It's about making sure that no one person has too much power.
And that everyone is accountable for their actions.
Exactly. And it's also about creating a system that can outlast any individual leader.
So the organization can continue to thrive even as leadership changes.
Precisely. That's what it takes to build a truly sustainable and impactful organization.
It's a lot to think about.
It is, but it's all part of Dalio's vision for a better way of working.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground today, but there's still so much more to explore.
There is. We haven't even touched on all of Dalio's principles.
We haven't talked about personal evolution or work-life balance.
Or the importance of developing a personal philosophy.
Dalio's book is a treasure trove of wisdom.
It is. But even in this short time, I feel like we've gained some valuable insight.
Me too. It's been a really thought-provoking conversation.
I'm excited to see what other insights Dalio has to offer.
Well, let's take another quick break, and then we'll come back to the final part of our deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles.
We'll wrap up our discussion and share some key takeaways that you can apply to your own life and work.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the final part of our deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles.
It's been a fascinating journey.
It really has.
So much to unpack.
A lot of food for thought.
It really is. So if we had to boil it all down,
Distill it into one core message.
what would it be?
It's that success in life and work isn't just about luck or talent.
There's more to it
It's about having a set of principles.
that guide your decisions and actions.
Exactly. Like having a roadmap, a philosophy for navigating life's complexities.
It's about having that North Star.
Exactly. And it's about constantly striving to align your actions with those principles, even when it's difficult.
It's about being willing to course correct, to learn from those inevitable mistakes, and to continuously evolve.
Absolutely. Because Dalio's principles aren't meant to be followed blindly.
Right. They're not a set of hard and fast rules.
They're more like a starting point.
For developing your own principles,
Based on your values and goals.
your own unique roadmap.
Exactly. It's about taking ownership of your life, your decisions, and your outcomes.
It's about recognizing that you have the power to shape your own destiny.
Even amidst all the chaos and uncertainty of the world.
I love that. Now, I know this is a lot to take in.
It can feel overwhelming.
Try and put all of Dalio's principles into practice at once.
Absolutely. So where do you even begin?
That's the question, right?
Dalio suggests starting small
Okay, so pick one principle that really resonates with you.
and focus on incorporating that into your daily life.
Maybe start with being more radically open-minded.
Yeah, or start tracking your mistakes in an error log.
Just one small step at a time.
Exactly. Master one principle, then move on to another. It's about making those incremental changes.
That ultimately lead to big results.
Exactly, like building a muscle. You start with lighter weights and gradually increase the resistance.
I love that analogy.
And remember, progress isn't always linear. There will be setbacks. There will be mistakes.
That's part of the process.
The key is to embrace those setbacks, learn from them, and keep moving forward.
Don't let them derail you.
Exactly. Now, I know some people might be listening to this and thinking,
This is all great, but I'm just one person.
how can I possibly make a difference?
It's easy to feel insignificant.
Like your actions don't really matter.
But Dalio believes that even small changes can have a big impact.
When they're multiplied across individuals and organizations.
It's about shifting the culture, one conversation at a time.
One decision, one action.
And it all starts with taking responsibility for our own thoughts, words, and actions.
Because we all have the power to make a difference.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles,
What's the one challenge we want to leave our listeners with?
what's the one action they can take today to start putting these principles into practice?
I would say
Pick one principle from the book
that really speaks to you.
and commit to incorporating it into your life for 1 week.
Just 1 week.
Write it down.
Put it somewhere you'll see it every day.
Maybe set a reminder on your phone.
Whatever it takes to keep it top of mind.
And at the end of the ride, reflect on how that principle has influenced your decisions, your interactions, your well-being.
Share your experience with a friend, a colleague, or even on social media.
Let's start a conversation about how we can all live more principled lives.
Because when we live by our principle,
We not only improve our own lives,
but we also contribute to creating a better world.
for everyone.
And on that note, I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive into Ray Dalio's principles.
It's been an incredible journey.
I have really enjoyed exploring these ideas with you.
Me too. And I hope our listeners have found this deep dive insightful and inspiring,
We encourage you to continue exploring Dalio's work.
and to keep striving to live a life guided by your own principles.
Until next time.
Keep diving deep.